Welcome to the Content 10X Podcast, the show where content creators learn how to harness the power of content repurposing. And now, your host, Amy Woods.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Content 10X podcast. I'm your host, Amy Woods, and this week is a super exciting week for Content 10X and for myself personally. So on the week of releasing this podcast episode, I have just officially launched my book called Content 10X, More Content, Less Time, Maximum Results. So if you're listening to this right at the time of release, then it's just been released. It was released on the 23rd of October, 2019. So it's a really huge milestone for me and for my career. Never in a million years would I have believed you if you told me 10 years ago that I'd be a published author with a book about content repurposing as well. Back when I was a management consultant working in banking and mergers and acquisitions, and I thought you were crazy. But in fact, even 2 years ago, when I'd started Content 10X and I was growing my personal brand and immersed in the world of content marketing and content repurposing and growing the business of Content 10X, I still don't think a couple of years ago I'd have believed you if you'd said I was going to write a book. Yet here I am holding a copy of my book in my hand. And I think that's what makes this so exciting too. The book isn't just an ebook or a fairly short e-guide on my website and Amazon. It's a really comprehensive, proper book. I don't mean to sound negative towards ebooks or shorter books. I'm sure many of us have created those and consumed those and found them to be really useful, but there's something so special about the fact that I have physical copies of the book in paperback. I'm arranging hardback too. There's an audio book which is coming out later this year as well. So the book's available as a Kindle e-reading, paperback and audio. It feels so exciting that I really can truly call myself an author, which is really cool. Now, it's early days, of course. The book's been on pre-order since mid-August, and at the time of this podcast episode being released, it's only been out for a couple of days. So firstly, I just want to thank everyone who did pre-order it. Really appreciated, and I hope that you have your copies now. If you want to get hold of a copy, either go to content10x.com/book or just search for it on Amazon. If you put Content 10X into Amazon, you should be able to find the book there. I'm expanding distribution of the book soon as well. So, I mean, let's face it, I think most people do go to Amazon to get most things, including books, and it is there. But I'm going to be expanding the distribution just to be able to get the book from different places as well. So that's coming soon as well. Now, as you know, I'm all about content repurposing. My business is a content repurposing creative agency. My blog and podcast is about content repurposing, and I speak on stages about repurposing. And so unsurprisingly, that's what the book is about, repurposing too. And there was a fair amount of repurposing that went into the creation of the book as well. I'd like to direct you to episode 93 of the podcast and the associated blog post as well. So that's content10x.com/93, because I shared there a lot about my method for writing the book and how I was able to repurpose for the book. So this week, I want to share with you 5 ways that I've been able to do some marketing for the book based on repurposing as well, so based on other content. I think this would be really useful if you are ever planning on writing a book, but I also think that if you listen through the 5 ways, you're probably going to come up with ways that you could do this, not just for marketing books as well, but products and services too. So number 1, taking photos of people with the book and then sharing them on social media platforms in different ways. So this is great because it's your book, so your product or whatever it is that you have that you're trying to sell. And if you can get pictures of people physically holding or consuming whatever the service or the product is, then that's so good because people love to see photographs on social media more so than stock photography or some of the graphics created. They love to see photos and native content. And so it's the content people like to see. It showcases what you have, what you're selling. And it's great if the person holding it then shares with their audience as well, because it gets your, in this case, book in front of a new and different audience as well. Number 2 here was to take photographs of excerpts of the book and share them when explaining what the book is about. So sharing, for example, the opening to the chapter on podcast repurposing, and then writing some social content about, did you know that there's a section on podcasting? This is what it is. This is how it would help you, how it would be useful. And that's all within this book. So taking photographs of excerpts of the copy and of the book. So delving inside rather than photos of people holding, now delving inside the content and taking photographs of that can be really useful as well. Now, number 3 is making use of the copy from the book, so the copywriting that's gone into the book. So social media copy to accompany some of what I just mentioned, different photographs that you can take, and other graphics and visuals and marketing content that you're creating when promoting, like I said, your book or maybe a product or service, to not start from scratch. But here I was able to open up the manuscript and then wordsmith copy from the book into social media posts in many ways as well. So yes, you might have to change things a little bit and make them social media friendly, but it's better than starting from scratch. Now, number 4, I mentioned that I am recording an audiobook. So I'm going to share some of the audiobook content as podcast episodes. So I think this is really good, but this obviously is applicable to people who either have podcasts or share audio content with their audience. But being able to take chapters and I guess similar to the excerpts that are shared visually, this is audio excerpts that I can share through my audio content medium in order to get that in front of my audience. So it's really good repurposing of audio content for podcast episodes or audio files on your website as well. And then number 5, so behind the scenes content. So I've been able to share so many aspects of my journey to getting this book written and published as my marketing content. For example, on Instagram stories, on the days that I've been at the recording studio for the audiobook, I've been able to share content on that. When I got to hold the physical copies of the book for the very first time, I was able to share content on stories for that as well. And it's not just stories, but just sharing photographs and videos on all of the different platforms. But particularly for me, because I use Instagram quite a lot for sharing information and stories with my audience, it's been really good because I've been able to do exactly that. It's stories and it's sharing the journey of this book and all the different milestones from, like I said, holding the first physical copies, turning up to the audio book studio for the first time and taking people through that journey. My point here is it's really good to always think about that behind the scenes content of your development of a book or of a new product or a service, but taking people on the journey with you and creating all those different types of content that shares your story and your journey as well. Okay, so I hope you found that really useful in terms of me just sharing, I guess, the mindset as well that I've tried to be in for the marketing of this book, because it's not easy. You know, I'm running a really busy creative agency at the same time as attending some events where I'm speaking at them, and lots of time and effort that goes into that, growing my team, and then having the book as well. It's fantastic, but it's very time consuming. And so I've tried to have very much a repurposing mindset when it comes to the big challenge of the marketing of the book, in order to try and make it as straightforward as possible and as effective as possible without spending too much time and without reinventing the wheel too much, and with really assessing what do I have and how can I make the most of what I have, which is basically what repurposing is all about, isn't it? So I hope you found this episode really, really useful. As I said, if you want to get a copy of the book, either find it on Amazon, Content 10x, or head to the website content10x.com/book. Also, that's the place you can go to find out more about what we do at Content 10x, the end-to-end content repurposing service that we offer to our clients. And also, if you like the podcast, it would be great if you could hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcast listening app, and maybe even leave a review as well. That would be fantastic. If you want to connect with me, then do follow me on social media at Content 10x on all the social media platforms, most active on Instagram and Twitter. So all that's left to say is thank you so much for listening to this week's podcast episode, and I'll catch you in the next one.